Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Freedom Radio Hour. I'm your host, DJ Adam Cruz, and I'm sitting here next to my mainest partner right here,
Eddie Nicholas. What up, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan. We're so glad that you have decided to join us. DYmusicradio.com, correct?
Correct. Very good. So I'm so delighted that you guys took the opportunity to join us. If you're listening or watching, we appreciate you. Check out freedomradiohour.com and download our free app for Android and iPhone users. We got to jump right into it. You know that the Freedom Radio Hour is here, not only giving you fantastic music, but we're here to be your number one source for music, business, news, and trends from around the globe. All right, stepping out in front, you know, there's a lot of bochincha to cover today. That's Spanish for gossip. So let's jump into it. First, I want to talk about some really reputable studies that come out. There's a bunch of them. Usually, I don't even pay attention to any of them, and none of them are worth talking about on this show. But when three organizations put out reports, I tend to pay attention. One is the Recording Industries reports. That's the RIAA. The other is IFPI, that International Federation of the Phonographic, blah, blah, blah. They're very reputable. And then this third one from Music Watch. You know, they're a music consumer research firm. They do a lot of studies just about the habits that you and I engage in terms of music consumption. This one I really love because they really try to take the time. They spend 2 years developing the reports in between time. So, at the end of 2016, Music Watch had a published report indicating that 26 million people in the U.S. Were purchasing monthly music services, right? 26 million. So now 2 years later, they've conducted another study, and they've published their findings, of which they say now 51 million people in the U.S. are purchasing monthly music services. That's those platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Pandora, and the others. So they're saying that represents double the amount from 2 years prior. So we're looking at roughly around 13 million added every year. That's according to Music Watch. And I had to talk about it on the show because it's a very interesting thing. When you look into the details of things sometimes.
The fine details.
Yeah, it's what they call the devils in the details. So they're saying that of the 51 million, they have 20 million users that are accessing that service from those paid accounts without paying additional dollars. That means that 20 million folks are basically gleaming off of those that pay from their accounts to enjoy the music. So, in simple terms, that's like if you and I together decide to enjoy the service. I pay for it. I sign up for Spotify, let's say, but I share my login information with you, Eddie, and you're not paying the $10 a month. I am. So together, we ought to be paying $20
a month.
But we're paying $10 a month because I just shared my login with you.
You said here.
Yeah. And it's not a family plan because you oftentimes the services include some sort of family plan that allows you to, have cousins and children on there, etc. But their findings suggest that 20 million users are accessing the service for no cost through sharing, right? So that
through sharing a piracy.
Exactly. So we're basically saying this. Let's because we don't know the actual specifics here. This is the report that they're publishing. If we take that 20 million away from the 51 million, that leaves 31. Right? So we have 31 million paid. From 2 years prior, that's 26 million. So the difference here is $5 million. We're talking about 2.5 million subscribers added per year. That's what I meant, not dollars. So 2.5 million subscribers are added each year if you use this math that we've just applied.
But when I'm hearing you talking about all of that, then I see when it goes back to the stock value of those places that they more than likely, based on that $50 million, could be inflating their marketing, their money worth.
Right, so this is exactly the times when we talk in prior episodes about Tidal, the rapper Jay-Z purchased Tidal for a set amount of dollars based on a certain number of subscribers from a Norwegian company, Aspiro. Aspiro then has a lawsuit generated by Jay-Z and Tidal because they allege that those numbers were not correct. Now, in this case, we're just talking about the same kind of thing. You think, wow, people are consuming music more than ever before, and they're choosing streaming as the only mode, right? right? The 51 million, according to the reports. But when you think about the other things that they're telling you in these reports, it's really funny, the numbers. So I think it's really interesting that if you think about it, the growth is not as fast or as high as you think.
As it's reported.
That's how I felt when I read that. When I read that piece, that's how I felt. Yeah, fell off the chair. But what I wanted us to talk about that, because there's more to discuss about this report. But the basic thing here initially, when you first read it, is like, wow, if you don't pay attention, you think that more than 51 million people in the U.S. alone. What do you think that might look like on a global scale? There's a lot of money being made, and this is a great look for everybody involved, especially the artists. But when you look at the details, it actually benefits us, the artists, the least. And it benefits corporate companies like Google, like Spotify, and the others to make the lion's share of the income. Let's break down more of the details from the Music Watch report. Let's take a break. When we come back right here on the Freedom Radio Hour.
91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan. BeWildMusicRadio.com.
Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
What up, beautiful people? This is Eddie Nicholas, and I'd like to welcome you back to 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan. DWildMusicRadio.com. I'm sitting up here with my fantastic, knowledgeable friend, the one and only Mr.
Adam Cruz, and we're live and direct right here on the Freedom Radio Hour. We're your number one source for music, business news, and trends from around the globe. All right, so we were talking about the report that's just been published by music consuming research firm Music Watch. And so every couple of years they publish new reports about our consuming habits. And it's worth noting in our episode that Music Watch is one of 3 that we consider to be reputable. There are some others, but basically we look out for reports by such groups because they really tell you some of the interesting details about what's really going on in the music business. So last we were talking about Music Watch's published report that indicates that now 51 million people in the U.S. have purchased a monthly music service subscription. So when we broke down the details, we understand from the report that 20 million users are attaching themselves to each of those paid accounts and not paying that additional money. They're accessing it for free, right? So that means that less than that 51 million really is paying for the service when you break down how many people access it based off the 1 or 2 accounts, let's say. The other interesting thing on the report that I know you're going to be like, I can't with this. I know, I could see you already rolling your eyes. But I want to talk about the fact that one of the big moments I found that were telling was that 2 companies represent 80% of the total share of this figure that we've been talking about in the U.S. Who are those 2 companies? Spotify and Apple Music. The 2 of them combined represent 80% of the total consumption in the U.S. on streaming.
On streaming music.
So already, we talk about this a lot. Already, we're seeing a consolidation of power as it relates to music streaming services. Right now, we only have but a few services out there to begin with. This wasn't like in the vinyl and CD days where you had lots of labels, a lot of things, a lot of different outfits doing work. Now you're having a few channels that are really disseminating the music digitally. So for you and I to enjoy streaming, now we're basically signing up for 1 or 2 of these big companies. Let's not discount YouTube's prowess and others, but there's a difference in this. This is the twist that I want to talk about. So we have 51 million paid subscriptions, according to this report, but they also want to tell you that when they take account the number of millions of people that access YouTube, a free service, the amount of people, millions, in fact, that access Spotify's free trial period. Because you know when you sign up for Spotify, there's a free trial, right? So there's that amount. And then the other T. So you have Amazon. Right now, if you want to engage in ordering physical product and have it shipped to your home really quickly, you can sign up for what's called Amazon Prime.
Prime, yes.
And a Prime is this really popular thing in the States and around the globe where that day or the next day you can get shipping for free or for a reduced rate since you've paid a subscription service into Prime. But to throw in as a little bonus for you signing up, you're automatically enrolled in their music subscription service. So what this study says is when you add up inactive users, which are the millions of people that sign up for, say, Spotify's Prime and aren't accessing music through it because they only signed up for the shipping part, let's say, That represents 157 million people that are accessing music for $0.
$0.
This is the big problem that we've been talking about. There's a huge gap between those that are willing to pay for it and those that aren't. We have the labels around the globe, music publishers, streaming outfits, and even the stock market is telling you that, wow, streaming is where it's at, and there's a lot of money that's being made and traded back and forth for that. But what happens when the artist is involved? How much are they seeing in all this streaming and
I guess if you are not directly involved in the trafficking of your own music, you're still going to get that half a penny.
Well, we're still talking about a fraction of a penny per stream. Very good. Very good point. I think that what we need to discuss today is what's happening. You have
basically you still have to pay thousands of streams in order to get
even a few dollars.
A few dollars.
Right. And so now there's one tier of there's a fraction of a penny that you get for paid subscription, but there's also a less than that when it's free. So you got most of the people that are accessing the music for free, and you get even less of that fraction of a penny because it's free. So this is the gap that we're seeing now. In YouTube's case, we're always talking about their problem, which is called value gap. That same idea, how much they make in advertising versus how much they pay out in the artist. Are you okay over there? You got a lot of activity on your phone.
I know, right?
But I think the point is really valid here, that what's happening is a free consumption of music, and we have little control about what happens, and we get little money from the times that people access that streaming for free. And what we're saying is, we got to be careful because the details aren't indicating that it's this robust growth business that they keep telling. They keep telling us that.
And when you talk about robust growth in business, the thing is to attract those investors right away.
Right.
Because once you attract the investors, you have your bed of money that you can actually play with, and everything else is just what can you recoup.
Right.
Without giving out a greater shell.
Exactly.
Of what you're supposed to give out.
So you got 3 times the amount of people that are accessing the music for free versus those that are willing to pay. That is that's the crux of the issue right now. Let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about YouTube's value gap and what Europe is finally doing about this issue and how not everybody's in favor of it. Let's take a break right here on the Freedom Radio Hour.
91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan.
Freedom Radio Hour.
And we're back live on Capital Radio, 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan, and on the web at dwildmusicradio.com. You're deep in the zone right here on the Freedom Radio Hour, your #1 source for music business news and trends from around the globe. I'm sitting here to my fantastic partner,
Eddie Nicholas. What up, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan. You know, Adam and I, we're just glad to be back up in here with you, and we're bringing you all the news, as he said, from around the world that is important to you. Yes.
So let's talk about what happens in Europe. You know, for over 2 years, we've been talking about value gap when it relates to YouTube. Because YouTube is free, there is the money that YouTube makes and advertisement that, you know, you have to sit through, say, 15 seconds of advertisement in order to enjoy the video that you want to access. YouTube makes money from that advertisement. Oftentimes, what they're making money off are music or music video content, okay? So, the value gap exists because YouTube makes a bunch of money from that advertising dollars, and they pay out a fraction of a penny per stream to the artists. Now, YouTube says we pay out billions to those, to record labels and music publishers who are the people that pay the artists, so go chase them and figure out why they aren't paying you more. The music publishers and labels say they pay a smaller per user rate than they ought to when you compare it to the others because they have a larger base, it's free, and they make a ton of money in the advertising as a result. So for more than 2 years, Europe, the European Commission, they're called EC, have been really trying to come up with a way to deal with this. And we've been waiting for a long time for them to respond about this issue. Where finally, they're getting around to modernizing their own language in Europe around this very issue. But I want to discuss this with you. they want to impose what's called Article 13.
And what is Article 13? It sounds so.
I know. I'm going to break down a very simple way as best as I can understand it. So right now, you have content that when you put up on YouTube or Facebook, they have a content ID system which will flag a song
If it belongs to
if
someone.
it belongs to somebody and says you have possibly infringed on copyright. That used to just take you down or put you in Facebook jail or whatever they call it. But now they've taken to muting the content.
That's
So
on Facebook.
that's on Facebook.
With
But
YouTube, they would take it down, but they'll do just like Facebook, and they'll send you an initial
a notice.
a notice.
takedown notice. Yes. So that's the way that they deal with it. So because they have this apparatus, this process for taking down content that's possibly infringed, they themselves, YouTube, doesn't incur a lawsuit because they offered it for that spell of time. Because they have this process for takedown. When you remove that process or that structure, it leaves them liable for lawsuits, okay? But in the case of Value Gap, what they want to do now is institute Article 13, which will also auto-detect little semblances of
Copyrighted.
samples in other people's generated content. What does that mean? Think about it in the advent of hip-hop. When hip-hop started, it was very sample-driven. It's still very sample-driven. And most of the beats were taken from other things, and then they recreated other drums and things around the sample. And that was basically the birth of the hip-hop sound. So what this does, Article 13, is track that from occurring before you put it up. And it doesn't allow you to have that content available because Article 13 will find a little bit of samples within it. So in the case of, say, hip-hop, it'll detect that, oh, you're sampling Eddie Nicholas's Shake underneath that. So you can't use it. In the case today, DJ remixer, Grammy Award winner David Morales from Def Mix. Shout out to you, David Morales.
Shout out, Dave.
He's having, he just posted on his social media accounts a response after Kanye West released a song.
Kanye West. I live.
Kanye West released a song called I Love It. And so the bass line is from a house music song that David Morales produced. So David has this post up that says, hey, just so you know, this is my record called, I forget, what is this thing called Love? Alexander O'Neal. Here's the dub, and this is the bass line, and now you hear that it's the same thing as Kanye West. And no, I didn't get points, I didn't get any love, nobody hit me up, nobody got my okay. So what YouTube's Article 13, going back to that, is trying to do is make it so that the moment that they try to upload content where that sample exists, it'll track it and say, you can't because of X, Y, and Z reasons. And so on the one side, you think, okay, that's good. I want people to protect my music, even if it's the ittiest sample. But on the other, you're basically squelching any possibility for inspiration or innovation to happen where music genres tend to take birth, like hip-hop. So on the one hand, you want to protect the music, but on the other, you don't want to squelch creativity.
No.
So what do you think? Do you think that if Article 13 is implemented and it detects the ittiest samples, we won't even have like Vogue?
Well, look,
look
what happened with our boys with that Marvin Gaye stuff.
Yeah,
this little thing, they had to pay out millions of dollars. So, it's all in the ear of the hearer.
So now we're getting even more specific. But all this to say, okay, so they figure out a way to track it, but we still haven't figured out how are we going to get paid.
Thank you.
And why is it that we always introduced in this way that says you are going to get a fraction of? The moment that you add the words fraction of, I know we're not getting paid.
Now, but you have to keep me posted on this David Morales Kanye West thing.
I don't know if anything's going to come out of this. I mean, I'm interested to see. But it's a really interesting thing because Kanye, who's a Chicago native, is very well informed about house music. So, and several of his records, he's sampled Barbara Tucker, Mr. Fingers, and others. So he's well aware about house music and should be, at this point in his career, having his people clear all samples. So why?
Especially those music from the 90s where he's pulling from.
Yes, and the other side of the coin, while we're talking about it, is David Morales may have a point, except he may not own that material anyway. You see, most remixers are worked for hire. So the label that put out that Alexander O'Neal record would be the one to have the issue. David Morales' issue really doesn't have any meat, because if he doesn't really own the copyright, he's just verifying that it was his work. He can't take any action because he was probably a work for hire. Right. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Freedom Radio Hour. Make it your business to check out the brand new Eddie Nicholas Do You Want to Dance LP, available everywhere. And search out DJAdamCruz.com for more of my music. We're celebrating 10 years of mixtape sessions, great records including Shonda D. Nicholas, Get My Life, Jacqueline Graham, the Jock Queen EP, and much more coming up. So keep it locked. Every single time we get together, I love to share information and let everybody know that the Freedom Radio Hour is where it's at. Check out our free app and tell everybody you know.
91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, DYmusicradio.com. Peace.
Have a great weekend and a great week ahead.
Love, love, love.